Hey everyone, in this video we're going to go over Molinito maintenance. First, how to take off the housing, how to lubricate each particular machine, how to replace the housing, and then also how to sand down your stones. We're going to cut this up in chapters, so feel free to skip ahead. We'll include that in the description so that you can jump to the point that you're looking for. But the first thing we're going to do is remove the housing. Now we have 3 different Molinito models out there. We're going to go over each one, one by one. The first one is this model right here. You can see the difference is that we have this L shape here in the back, and then this large knob. So if this is the Molinito you have, we're going to go over right now how to remove the housing for this particular one. First off, go ahead and remove the feeding tray. I actually took it off earlier. And then also remove all of these screws. You're going to take all the ones off on this side, and then also the same on the other side. The other tools you're going to need is a 1/8 Allen wrench, and then the screwdriver, of course, to take off the screws on the side. Now the reason for the Allen wrench is right here on the tightening knob. At the very top, there's a securing nut that you're going to want to remove so that you can unscrew the tightening knob. Loosen it up, and you can set this aside for now. All right, then you can just go ahead and loosen by hand the tightening knob. It's gonna pop out, so it's good to just be prepared to catch it. Go ahead and set that aside. Securing nut as well. Go ahead and loosen that all the way. Set it to the side. And the last part is right here, part of the power cord. Loosen this piece of plastic. Bring it all the way down, set it aside. Also, this side lever right here, you're going to want to make sure that you fully remove it. Make sure to turn it counterclockwise. All right, so with the stone clutch lever removed and the tightening knobs, and then also this plastic piece that's protecting the power cord, we can go ahead and pull it straight back. Let's give ourselves some room. Careful not to pinch your fingers. You can kind of just shimmy it back. The cord might get stuck because of how tight it was. You can go and feed it through a little bit to give yourself some more room back here. Let's go ahead and pull it back easily. It does have the electrical connections inside, and we don't want to just yank it all the way back to remove them. And then there, you've removed the Molinito housing. So with the housing removed, now we can go ahead and lubricate the machine. Looks like this guy's a little dirty. It just came in. I definitely recommend to keep your Molinito clean. It's just going to also keep it from getting overheated unnecessarily. But for this machine, the lubrication point is right here, right, where the bearings are. It's this zert. And what you'll need is a lubrication gun. It's going to look something like this, right? Where you're going to put the tip of the lubrication gun onto the zert. You're going to want to pump the nozzle and make sure that the hose is already filled, there it is, with grease, so that you know where you're starting. So once you see a little bit of the grease come out, you're good to go. Go ahead and pop the nozzle right on the zert. If you have this similar gun, all it requires is just a push. You can kind of feel a little clip or a little snap go in. And what we're doing is we're pumping grease into this stone clutch system where the bearings are. And when you start to see the grease come out, you can see some of the grease coming out over here. That's your visual cue that you're all set. Then to take it off, you kind of just turn it to release the little airlock. And that's it. On these machines, it's just needed to lubricate this one housing, and then you're good to go. All right, now that we've lubricated the machine, we can go ahead and replace the housing. So what we're going to do, pretty much the reverse of what we did to pull it out. Go ahead and kind of make sure this is a little taut. Just make sure that you're no longer giving any more excess wire on the inside. Lift it up. What you're looking for in this case is the auger back here. You're going to want to make sure that it lines up with the hole on the back. Once it does, it's a fairly easy way to push it back in. Make sure you don't pinch your fingers. Go at about it slow if it's your first time. Then what you want to do is, again, replace this piece right here that's securing the power cord, tightening it up. Basically the opposite of what we were doing. Put the securing nut back on first, then the tightening knob itself. There we are. Now you're going to notice that there is a flat piece here on the fastener itself that allows you to secure this sort of securing nut onto the handle. So just make sure you're stopping at a point that's flat. Once you're there, just tighten it by hand all the way until you feel it stop. Then inside here, go ahead and line up the stone clutch lever with the opening and turn clockwise to tighten it up. Once done, go ahead and replace all the screws and you have the housing back on. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the second model of the Molinito. So we'll get this one off and swap it out. All right, so now we're gonna move on to removing the housing from the second model. Couple things that distinguish this one. First, you're gonna notice that the stone clutch lever handle itself is got a pretty short throw. And in the back, you can notice that there's actually no screws on the whole back side. That's a key indication that you have the second model. So what we're gonna do is go over how to remove the housing for this particular model. First thing is you're gonna wanna remove the wing nut here. You just kind of turn it counterclockwise and this allows you to remove the tray. If it's stubborn for any reason, go ahead and feel free to use like pliers to loosen it up and then it should be normal to do it by hand. Once that's removed, go ahead and take the tray off. And the tools you'll need for this one is, again, just a flathead screwdriver, right? Ratchet one makes things a lot easier. We've gone ahead and removed most of the screws. I think I've got one guy left over here. All right, once you have the last screw taken off, go ahead and set it aside. Then we're gonna remove the handle here from the stone clutch lever. Should be easy by hand. Go ahead and counterclockwise, turn it off. In the back, we have the tiny knob, very similar. Go ahead and loosen it counterclockwise by hand. And then lastly, we can let this piece go down. Go ahead and unscrew this plastic piece securing the power cord. Move it a good ways out. Now that we have all the screws on the side, make sure everything's gone on the edge here. These two on the ends, these stay for the flap, so don't worry about that. Go ahead and leave them in. Now the method we're gonna use is similar to the first one. We're gonna pull it back and then we're gonna kind of rotate the housing around the stone clutch lever. It's got a surprising amount of bend, so don't worry about anything. First, I feed a little bit of the power cord into the housing so it gives me kind of some space to move around. What I wanna do is come all the way back, and then once I get to the stone clutch lever, go ahead and turn the casing a bit until it clears. Once it's clear, pull it back. At this stage, you're gonna wanna gently pull it back so that you don't pull out any of the wiring. Now you've gotten inside. So what we're gonna do next is show you the lubrication points on this model and how to grease it up. The lubrication points are gonna be two on this particular model. One here towards the back. This is gonna be covering the first set of bearings. And then the second one is right here towards the front, and that's gonna cover the second front of bearings. All right, the process is the same. Make sure that the grease gun nozzle is full, so give it a good couple pumps and make sure that you see grease coming out. Then what you're gonna wanna do is attach the tip of the nozzle here to the zert. Just give it a good secure clip. You can kind of feel a clip once you push it in. And what we're gonna do is just pump into the bearing housing here. For this one, all you need is 3 pumps. You're not gonna see any grease coming out typically, but at 3 pumps, you know you're good. So then go ahead and just turn, rotate, and it comes off. Same for the one in the front. You're gonna wanna line it up here with the nozzle, push down until you kind of feel a clip. There you go. And then we're just 3 pumps here as well. All right, with that, now your Molinito's fully lubricated. You're gonna wanna do this as a reminder about once every 56 hours of use. So depending on how often you're using it, it could be sooner, it could be later. As long as you have a scheduled routine in place, it's gonna go a long way in keeping your Molinito running very smoothly. All right, so now we're gonna go into replacing the housing, putting it back on. Kind of basically the reverse of what we just did. You're gonna wanna make sure that the power cord here is taut so that you're not kind of leaving any extra in there. Line it up with the frame itself. Give it a good little bend so that it clears this stone clutch lever here on the side. Be gentle so you don't pinch yourselves. It's going to be easier first if you find the fastener here for the tightening knob and make sure it clears this hole so that kind of work as your guiding level. Once you're in there, then you can kind of come back in here. You're going to need to rotate the housing so that it clears the stone clutch lever. Okay, so what we're going to do is feed the tightening knob or the stone clutch lever here on the side through this little hole. Sometimes it's easier to kind of just get some leverage with a screwdriver. Once you're in, go ahead and lift it up, kind of align it back with the frame, and then we'll be doing the same, making sure to replace plastic piece right here, securing the power cord, tightening it back up. Then for the tightening knob, make sure it's all the way. Go ahead and put the knob for the stone clutch lever back on. And then replace all the screws here along the perimeter. And you should be good. All right, so now we're gonna show you how to take off the housing for the third model of the Molinito. The way that you can identify that you have the third model, one of them is gonna be this long throw handle here for the stone clutch lever. Another key indicator, more importantly, are gonna be a little bit more subtle. But here in the back, you're gonna see that there are screws here on the corner. And if you open up, there's a screw here inside. And lastly, the other indicator is if we're gonna remove the feeding tray, and you can see here in the top of the Molinito where the feeding tray was, you have 3 additional screws. So these are gonna be the key indicators that you have the third model of the Molinito. And we'll go ahead and go over how to take off the housing for that one. What you're gonna be needing, the tools that you'll be needing again is just this flathead screwdriver. With the feeding tray removed, go ahead and take off all the screws here on the outside. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is let's go ahead and take off the handle here on the stone clutch lever. Just go ahead and rotate it counterclockwise by hand. Set this aside. Coming around to the back. And the last thing you're gonna wanna remove is this black cube right here. Grab a screwdriver, place it right behind it, gently push back, and you're gonna detach it from the front. We'll set that to the side. We're gonna wanna be mindful of the lever here. Make sure to clear it as we come back. Kind of open it up, bring it back carefully. You don't need to take it out all the way. All we're looking for is really just to clear the housing here so that we have access to the lubrication points. And now we're going over how to lubricate the machine. All right, so now for this model, there are 3 lubrication points. One here in the back by the stone clutch system, one right here in the middle, and then lastly, one here in the front. Now it's gonna be the same method that you use to lubricate the others, making sure you have a lubrication gun, making sure that the nozzle is full with grease. So pump it until you see a little bit of grease coming out of the tip. And then what you're gonna do, secure the tip here onto the zert and just wait for it to kind of feel a snap once you got it in. There you go. And for this one, what you're gonna wanna do is just give it 3 pumps. Go ahead and remove it. Let's get some of that excess grease off really quick. And we're gonna do the same to the other 2 zerts. So go ahead and place the nozzle there on the tip. On the front here, go ahead and maneuver the nozzle here on the tip. It'll be a little bit of a tight fit. push it down until you feel the clip. And then again, we're going for 3 pumps, and you have your Molinitos fully lubricated. As a reminder, you're gonna wanna lubricate the Molinito once every 56 hours of use. So go ahead and set a schedule, some routine that you have, and you'll have a well-working machine for quite a while. All right, with the Molinito fully lubricated, now we're gonna replace the housing. Basically, it's doing the reverse of what we did to remove it. So let's line it up here. You're gonna wanna clear the stone clutch lever. Open it up. Once you're fitting through there, just mind your fingers, make sure you don't pinch. Once you have that, put it back in. You're gonna wanna line up the black box here to this. All you gotta do is just give it a good line. You'll hear a click, not too much pressure is needed. Coming back around to the side, let's put the stone clutch lever handle back on. And then lastly, you're gonna wanna put all the screws around the edge here and make sure they're secured, not forgetting the 3 on the top. All right, so now we're gonna go over how to sand your stones down and when it's appropriate to do it. Keep in mind that you're gonna wanna sand your stones once sort of they've been extinguished, once the lifespan of them has been fully utilized. Couple of ways you can tell that the stones need resurfacing. These grooves, you may see the integrity of them is no longer as it was when you once got it. They may be shallow. Another key indicator is a shine that you'll see covering the whole stone. What that is an indication of is that the stones are grinding amongst themselves and it starts to crystallize the surface, which prevents sort of the porous nature of the basalt to work properly. And so you'll get a little bit more heat activation into the grind. Actually, the best indicator though is the preference of the masa. If you're noticing that consistently your masa isn't coming out to your preference and you've timed it, you've tried all the tips and tricks that we offer on our quick start guide, it's likely time to sand down the stones and resurface them. When it is not a good time is when you get brand new stones. Stones that are fresh out of the box that come with your Molinito, they're brand new condition. And so you don't want to use the sand on any new stones, really only to prepare them from getting resurfaced once they've been, once their lifespan is at the end, and you can kind of resurface them, bring them back, and get a new pair going. So we're going to be going over how to sand them over right now. Here we have our Molinito sand for our stones. It's silica sand that you can get at the hardware store. We just happen to offer it in nicer, smaller size bags. And then what you're going to want to do is incorporate it with water. So 1-to-1 ratio, sort of 1 cup of Molinito sand to 1 cup of water. So mix it in together. And you're kind of looking like, for this consistency, it's equivalent, I'd say, of sort of wet beach sand. And what we're going to do is we're going to feed it into our hopper with our used stones, and while continuously tightening up the knob in the back. Now I want to preface this is the only time when the stone clutch lever will be engaged that you'll be tightening the knob in the back. The reason for that is because you're literally shaving down that surface of the stones, removing the grooves, also removing the crystallization that's happened, bringing back that porous surface, but essentially kind of clearing it out and preparing it so that it can get resurfaced. Whether you're going to take it to a professional shop or you're going to DIY it, this is going to get the stones ready to be redone. All right, we have the stones loaded up. What we're going to do is feed the sand into the feeding tray. So I'll be showing you what I'm going to be doing, which is running the machine, feeding the sand into the hopper here, while continually tightening up the knob in the back. And we're going to turn on the machine, start feeding the sand. Here we go. I'm gonna put some water on this so we can get a better look. But from here you can see that it's flattened out most of the grooves around the edges while leaving the kind of internal floral pattern here intact. That's exactly what we're looking for, is to just kind of shaving off that top face and allowing for that more basalt rock to come through. Let's take a look at this guy. Same kind of feeling here. See if we can get some underwater and reveal what's underneath that sand. All right, and here we have the final product. You can see the grooves that go all the way to the edge have been completely flattened out. The shine, although it's tough to see right now because it's wet, but has been mostly gone, and it's just leaving the internal floral pattern. This is exactly what we're looking for when you're looking to sand down the stones, to prepare them to get reworked, resurfaced, and have the grooves kind of carved in them once more. Again, it's something you only want to do once your stones are extinguished, once they've reached their lifespan, not something you want to do on brand new stones, but it's a way to kind of bring life into the old stones so you can get more life out of this pair.